Well, hello kiteboarders. We're back with Professor Hydrofoil Rolf van der Vlucht, and he's gonna tell us all about there is to know about kiteboarding. Or aren't you?
Aren't you a professor?
Or aren't you gonna tell us anything?
Oh, no, I'm not a professor, but I'm gonna tell you about kitefoiling.
Ah, perfect. Well, just let us know what's it all about with hydrofoiling and how does it work?
Okay. Yeah, let me start with just showing the difference between foil kiting and normal kiteboarding with a freestyle board, like everybody knows. Yeah, let's just make the two drawings. There's a kite. There's the board. This is the water surface.
Oh, that's a skinny man.
Skinny people are easier to draw. So basically everybody knows this way of kiteboarding. It's you just put your reel in the water and you keep moving, producing a lot of spray.
Ah, but it looks pretty cool in the photos, Rolf.
Spray looks good, but it's already a little indication of some drag happening, some inefficiency. But I'll get to that later. That's don't need to dive in there now.
Perfect.
The hydrofoil. Looks a bit more like this. So you can see that the board is lifted out of the water, and well, you cannot kite surf without touching the water. So we've replaced it with something underwater. And yeah, the fact that there's a lifting body underwater, a wing, gives you a couple of advantages. For example, the waves moving underneath the board, you don't feel them anymore. So it gives you a very smooth ride, smooth feeling. While if you touch a wave with your freestyle board, you kind of really feel the bump.
Yeah, you get a hard feedback.
You get some rough feedback. So you could say driving over a bumpy road versus driving over the asphalt, or maybe even flying over the asphalt.
Ah, flying. That's what we all want to do.
Exactly. Yeah, basically I think this is the picture that shows what a hydrofoil is. You basically lift your board out of the water and yeah, you get your force from a wing underneath the water surface, giving you some advantages in efficiency and in comfort because you yeah, you stay away from the little bumps.
Ah, perfect. Well, people, that's at least one thing why you should go hydrofoiling. So the little thing on the water, Rolf, how does it work?
Yeah, for that I think it's good to just explain a little bit how a wing works in general. I guess there's yeah, quite a few explanations of how wings work. Real aerodynamicists like to talk about pressures. So there's a lower pressure on the top side of the wing and a bit of a higher pressure on the bottom side, and that's why the wing gets pushed upward when you move it through the water or to the air. That doesn't matter in principle. I also like to kind of simplify it by saying you put some surface in a flow. Basically, let me draw it. So
So what you're drawing now is the flow.
yeah, I'm thinking now that maybe it's better to keep the flow still because the water is kind of still
Yeah.
and the wing is moving through it.
So it's like the other way around.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They move with respect to each other. In the end, it doesn't matter. But let me
It sounds pretty philosophical.
let me draw let me draw the wing first.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, there's your wing. And yeah, now we have to get the wing moving
Mhm.
because when the wing doesn't move, there will be no lift.
It's the same when you are in an airplane. You need an engine to get yourself moving forward through the air.
Yeah, exactly. And if you would hit the brake and stop the airplane, there's only one way, and that's straight down.
That's down.
So keep it moving. Aerodynamicists like to talk about pressure. So they draw a whole distribution of pressure, and they say, here.
With aerodynamicists, you mean those airplane people?
Airplane people, people designing them, people trying to make them better, and they draw pictures like this, and they show that the pressure on the top is bigger, or actually smaller, so the air gets, or the wing gets sucked in an upward direction, and that's why it flies. That's why the force is in the right direction.
It's like a sort of a vacuum or something, creating a vacuum like an under pressure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Because all over the wing, you find mostly everywhere, you find a pressure which is lower than the normal static pressure, and that's why it gets gets sucked up. But another, maybe a somewhat more simple way to look at it is, you got this wing, you move it fast through the water, and you see the shape of the wing. It kind of deflects the water down.
Ah.
So by deflecting the water in a downward direction, it would be basically the same as just rolling a heavy ball or something over this surface and then shooting it down. Well, what happens if you do that with a ball? Your object itself gets
pushed up,
bumped upwards. Yeah.
Mm.
So both explanations, in my opinion, are equally true. And yeah, sometimes this is a bit more of an easy way to understand what's happening. If you just
if you just talk about balls.
Yeah, you gotta have balls.
you need balls for kiteboarding, people. Well, that sounds perfect.
Maybe what I also like to say is that for this effect to kind of understand it, you don't need a wing. You can even sit in the car, put your hand out of the window. If you give it a little bit of an angle, you feel your hand being pushed up. So basically, you are pushing the air that's coming against your hand. You push it down, and as a result, your hand gets pushed up. So your hand works perfectly as a wing in that way. So sometimes in my studies, people said like even a barn door flies. Everything flies as long as you give it some angle of attack, some incidence angle, then it'll go up. As long as there's enough wind or enough flow around it. So
okay, so people shouldn't buy expensive kiteboards anymore. Just buy a barn door.
Well, there are some things fly better than others.
That's true. Well, next time, boys and girls, we're gonna talk a lot more about this stuff. So if you just subscribe over there, we will hit you next time.